Office workers appreciated the thorough 68-year-old janitor who kept their building spotless and secure during overnight hours. What they didn't know was that Robert Martinez had spent 30 years infiltrating drug cartels, and some late meetings weren't about business deals. Welcome to the Hidden Professionals. Before we discover how a night janitor exposed a multi-million-dollar drug distribution network operating from a corporate office building, tell me in the comments, have you ever worked late and noticed unusual activity in your office building? And if you believe these stories of hidden heroes deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button. These stories protect our workplaces. Metropolitan Plaza stood 32 stories above downtown, housing law firms, accounting practices, consulting companies, and financial services that employed thousands of professionals who trusted their workplace security to maintain safe, clean, and professional environments during both business hours and after-hours access for clients, staff, and service providers who kept the commercial district functioning smoothly around the clock. Robert Martinez had been working the night cleaning shift at Metropolitan Plaza for 3 years, maintaining offices, conference rooms, and common areas with the meticulous attention to detail that made building tenants appreciate his reliability and thoroughness in ensuring their workspace remained professional and secure. At 68, he looked exactly like what he claimed to be, a dedicated maintenance professional who took pride in his work and understood the importance of discretion when cleaning spaces where confidential business discussions and sensitive client information required absolute privacy and trust. But Robert's analysis of after-hours activity and office usage patterns went far beyond normal janitorial observations. While most night janitors focused on cleaning efficiency, security protocols, and building maintenance schedules, Robert automatically analyzed meeting patterns, visitor behavior, and facility usage with the trained eye of someone who understood how criminal organizations use legitimate business environments to coordinate illegal activities while appearing to engage in completely normal commercial operations. What the building management company didn't know was that Robert Martinez had never been just a maintenance professional. For 30 years, he'd been Agent Robert Martinez, Drug Enforcement Administration, specializing in undercover operations, cartel infiltration, and international drug trafficking networks that use sophisticated business fronts to coordinate distribution operations worth hundreds of millions of dollars while maintaining the appearance of legitimate commercial activity. His retirement 3 years ago had been earned through 3 decades of some of the most dangerous undercover work in federal law enforcement. His ability to recognize criminal operational patterns had been permanent. "Good evening, Mr. Martinez," called Jennifer Walsh, a partner at Morrison & Associates law firm, as she worked late preparing for a major case. "Thank you for keeping our offices so clean and professional." But Robert's trained eye was already noting that this was the 5th night this month when certain offices had hosted after-hours meetings involving people who weren't listed in building security logs, conducting discussions that seemed unusually cautious about paper trails and exhibiting the kind of operational security that suggested coordination rather than normal business consultations. What bothered Robert wasn't the presence of after-hours business meetings. Professional firms often required extended hours, client consultations, and confidential discussions that occurred outside normal business schedules. What concerned him was the pattern of meeting behavior that matched techniques he'd observed during cartel surveillance operations where criminal organizations used business environments to coordinate drug distribution while maintaining legitimate commercial cover. Over the next month, Robert found himself conducting the kind of operational analysis that had characterized his DEA career. Not obvious law enforcement work, just a systematic observation of facility usage patterns that distinguish normal business activity from systematic coordination designed to support criminal operations. The evidence was becoming clear. The suspicious meetings occurred at specific intervals that allowed coordination without extended contact or documentation. The participants used cash payments for building services and avoided standard business communication methods, and most concerning, Robert recognized specific operational security techniques and coordination patterns that indicated professional drug trafficking rather than legitimate business consultations. Mike, the building's head of security, during their weekly facilities meeting, said, "Robert, you've been noticing some interesting after-hours activity lately. different from normal business operations. Robert had been present during all these activities, observing details that building maintenance staff might report for security reasons, but that also provided intelligence about criminal operations when analyzed by someone with drug enforcement experience. How so? Robert asked, though he already knew the meeting patterns indicated drug coordination rather than normal business activity. Hard to explain. People meeting in offices they don't rent, cash payments for services that are usually billed monthly, and conversations that stop when building staff appear. Just feels coordinated rather than spontaneous business. Robert's training immediately activated. When experienced building security described activities as feeling coordinated rather than spontaneous, they were often observing operational security that suggested criminal coordination rather than normal commercial business activity. That evening, Robert did something he hadn't done since his official retirement. He called a number that connected him to people who still investigated the crimes he'd once specialized in preventing. DEA Regional Office, Agent Lisa Garcia speaking. This is Robert Martinez. There was a pause. Agent Martinez, how's civilian life treating you? Cleanly, Robert said, sitting in his apartment with facility access logs and meeting observations that looked like normal building maintenance reports, but represented potential evidence of systematic drug distribution coordination involving corporate office space usage for criminal operations. Lisa Garcia had worked with Robert for 15 years before his retirement. She knew that when Robert Martinez called about suspected drug trafficking, it meant criminal organizations were using sophisticated operational techniques while operating in environments where federal agents weren't monitoring for organized drug distribution activity. What are you seeing? Agent Garcia asked. Robert provided details with the precision that had made him legendary in undercover operations. Facility usage analysis, meeting timing patterns, operational security indicators, and coordination techniques that suggested organized drug distribution rather than legitimate business consultations. Robert, Garcia said after he finished, will coordinate with organized crime and financial investigation units. Can you maintain normal janitorial operations while we develop the investigation? Affirmative, Robert said, but they're accelerating the coordination meetings. Based on the facility usage patterns and operational security, they're planning expanded distribution operations before building management can implement enhanced security protocols. What happened next was 30 years of DEA expertise compressed into the most important cleaning shift of Robert's civilian life. He returned to Metropolitan Plaza the following evening, not just as a night janitor maintaining clean and secure office environments, but as an experienced federal agent conducting surveillance in an environment where drug traffickers thought their coordination activities would be attributed to normal business operations rather than systematic criminal distribution planning. Over the next 10 weeks, Robert coordinated with Agent Garcia's team to document comprehensive drug distribution involving systematic office usage, coordinated trafficking operations, and organized criminal activity that generated over $8.4 million in annual illegal revenue while using legitimate business facilities to coordinate distribution networks that supplied drugs throughout the metropolitan region. We've arrested 16 suspects, including 2 attorneys, 1 accountant, and 3 logistics coordinators, Garcia told him during a briefing at the DEA office after the operation concluded. The trafficking network was systematically using Metropolitan Plaza office space to coordinate distribution operations and money laundering while using professional consulting services to launder money and maintain operational security that avoided traditional law enforcement surveillance methods. Local news covered the story as a major drug trafficking bust in downtown office building, with no mention of the night janitor who had recognized the criminal patterns or the DEA veteran who had provided the expertise that protected both the business community and the metropolitan area from criminals who used legitimate commercial facilities to coordinate systematic drug distribution while endangering the communities that depended on legitimate commerce for economic stability. A few weeks later, the Building Owners and Management Association approached Robert about developing enhanced awareness protocols for commercial office facilities. Mr. Martinez, said Association Director Patricia Williams, we understand you have extensive experience in commercial building operations and security pattern analysis. Robert looked around Metropolitan Plaza, where business professionals could work confidently, knowing their facilities were dedicated to legitimate commerce rather than criminal coordination, where office buildings remained focused on supporting professional services rather than providing cover for drug trafficking operations. He said simply, we'd like to implement enhanced awareness procedures for building management and maintenance staff to recognize criminal coordination indicators. Would you be willing to help develop those protocols? Of course, Robert replied. Protecting business communities from drug trafficking requires recognizing when commercial facilities are being used for criminal coordination rather than legitimate business operations, especially when professional environments are being exploited for systematic drug distribution and money laundering.
What the association director didn't know was that she just asked one of the DEA's most experienced undercover agents to design detection systems for protecting commercial office buildings from exactly the kind of criminal coordination Robert had spent his career infiltrating and dismantling. Robert never told the Metropolitan Plaza tenants about his DEA background or the drug trafficking operations he'd infiltrated. He never mentioned the distribution networks he'd dismantled or the criminals he'd helped convict for using legitimate business environments to coordinate drug trafficking that destroyed communities and families through systematic distribution of dangerous narcotics. He just cleaned the office building every night, maintained professional environments that supported legitimate business operations, and quietly monitored facility usage patterns that indicated drug traffickers were using commercial space for coordination while endangering the business community that trusted office buildings to provide secure, professional environments for legitimate commerce. But word spread through DEA circles that if anyone noticed unusual after-hours activity or suspected criminal coordination in commercial office facilities, they should probably consult with the night janitor at Metropolitan Plaza. Not officially, of course, just as a professional courtesy to someone who understood how drug trafficking operations worked. Every night from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., Robert continued his janitorial operations. He maintained clean and secure office environments that supported professional business operations, ensured building security that protected legitimate commercial activity, and monitored facility usage with the kind of operational analysis that had kept him at the forefront of drug enforcement for 3 decades. Most nights, the biggest challenge was maintaining cleaning schedules and ensuring that every office space met the professional standards that supported legitimate business operations and client confidentiality. But some nights, when his trained instincts recognized patterns that indicated criminal coordination, Robert Martinez was exactly where he needed to be, between legitimate business communities and drug traffickers who would exploit commercial facilities for coordination while endangering the professional environments that supported honest commerce and community economic development. Because that's what you do when you spent your career fighting drug trafficking. You don't stop protecting communities when you retire. You just find a new way to ensure that business environments serve legitimate commerce rather than criminal coordination. And sometimes the most important drug enforcement in a region is provided by someone who looks like they're just cleaning office buildings, but who knows exactly what criminal coordination looks like and refuses to let drug traffickers exploit professional facilities in any commercial district he serves. Robert had spent 30 years infiltrating criminals who used sophisticated coordination techniques to distribute drugs while destroying communities through systematic trafficking operations that generated illegal revenue at the expense of community safety and family stability. Now he spent his retirement ensuring that office buildings remained focused on legitimate business rather than providing coordination opportunities for criminal organizations that targeted communities through drug distribution networks. The mission was the same. The criminals were the same. The only difference was that now, instead of infiltrating drug operations after trafficking networks were established and communities were endangered, he was preventing criminal coordination by recognizing the patterns before drug traffickers could establish systematic operations in business environments that served legitimate commerce. And every night, as business professionals worked in facilities dedicated to legitimate commerce and community economic development, Robert Martinez worked with the eyes and experience of someone who knew the difference between normal business activity and criminal coordination. ready to protect both the business community and the metropolitan area that depended on commercial facilities remaining focused on honest commerce rather than providing opportunities for systematic drug trafficking operations. So the next time you work late in an office building, remember that the person ensuring your facility remains clean and secure might have expertise far beyond maintenance and building operations. The janitor protecting your professional environment might be the same person who spent their career fighting criminal organizations that exploit business facilities to coordinate drug trafficking while endangering the communities that depend on legitimate commerce for economic stability. Have you ever met someone like Robert? Someone whose maintenance work perfectly positioned them to protect business communities using their professional expertise? Share their story in the comments below. Tell us about the quiet professionals who never stop ensuring that office buildings serve legitimate commerce rather than criminal coordination. Thank you for watching The Hidden Professionals. If this story moved you, subscribe and share it with someone who believes in protecting business communities from drug trafficking. Because the world needs more people like Robert Martinez, professionals who understand that some protection is too important to end with retirement. Until next time, remember that guardians come in all forms. Sometimes they wear federal badges and infiltrate drug cartels. Sometimes they clean office buildings and monitor facility usage. But they're always protecting communities from drug trafficking, always ensuring that business environments serve legitimate commerce rather than criminal coordination. And sometimes the most important drug enforcement in your business district comes from someone who spent their career learning exactly how trafficking coordination works and refuses to let drug traffickers exploit professional facilities in any commercial building he calls his workplace.